Hello everyone and welcome to Makeover Monday 2021 week 18 Watch Me Viz. This week we're looking at the astounding CEO to worker compensation ratio. I'm going to go ahead and get started here, but I'm going to keep going, and if somebody could just post in the chat whether or not you can hear me okay, that would be great. So let's first start by looking at the original visualization. This comes to us from the Economic Policy Institute, and it tells us that CEOs make 320 times as much as typical workers. And the line chart is looking at the compensation ratio from 1965 to 2019. Overall, I guess the chart's okay. It's just a simple line chart. I do like how there are grid lines, but they're in the background. I don't quite understand why we need the decimal places on the markers and why those particular years are marked as well. I don't understand that. And also, when the lines are close to each other, I don't know which, like for example, 386.1 and 365.7. I'm not sure like what years those go with, so that's a bit confusing as well. I also find that the definition for realized compensation versus granted compensation a bit confusing. But down here in the notes below the chart, you can see both include salary, bonus, and long-term incentive payouts. However, the granted measure, so in this case that'd be the light blue measure, includes the value of stock options and stock awards when they were granted. The realized measure captures the value of stock-related components that accrues after options or stock awards are granted by including stock options exercised and vested stock awards. So I think that just means, I guess, value at the time that they received it, and maybe current value or something like that. I'm not. That's a bit confusing to me, so I might have to do a bit more research around that. The data set itself is really straightforward. It's just the year, the realized compensation ratio, and the granted CEO compensation. Okay, so let's get started. It's a line chart, or sorry, time series. So I'm just going to start with a line chart anyway, just to compare the two. And we see the patterns are a bit different. If I put them on this, drop one on top of the other on the axis, I get a combined axis view, and this gives us the again, this is looking at CEOs compared to the average worker. So you can see now CEOs get 320 times more. In 2019, they received 320 times more compensation than the average worker. I believe that's the average worker, so probably should verify. The average annual compensation is measured in two ways. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the original article and see if there's a bit of a better explanation about those two, what those two measures mean. Key findings. I'm just going to scroll through. Okay, so this one here, maybe this is the paragraph we could look at. So from most of our analysis, we use two measures, one based on compensation as realized and the other based on granted. Both include those. The difference is how each measure treats stock awards and stock options. Okay. Okay, so it says the difference is how each measure treats stock awards and stock options, major components of CEO compensation that change value from when they are first provided or granted to when they are realized. The realized measure of compensation includes the value of stock options as realized, in other words, when they're exercised. So that will also include the change in the stock price. Okay. Okay. The granted measure of compensation values stock options and restricted stock awards by their fair value when they're granted. Okay, so it's basically when they were granted versus when they were exercised. Okay, that makes more sense. So you might get granted stock 3 years ago, but then you decide to sell them now, and the realized would be the difference between the two of them. Okay. So we've got this simple chart here. Nothing particularly interesting. This is going to be a tough data set to do much with because it's not very interesting. So I'm going to actually just create a calculated field. So let's call this realized versus granted. And I'm going to just do the sum of the realized minus the sum of the granted. Okay, and let me duplicate this sheet, and I'm going to put that on the here instead, so we can see the granted so let's see, I need to, so this is realized minus, yeah, so here we go. So if we look at 2002, for example, the realized compensation was a lot lower than the granted compensation, so 2001 here. Okay, or 2011, whichever it was. So, okay, so this might be another way that we could look at this if we change it to a bar chart. Maybe that'll be a bit more interesting. I'm going to take measure names off the view, and I'm going to put realized versus granted on color. And that gives us kind of a, yeah, so that tells us, so realized versus granted. Yeah, okay. So what I would probably do here is maybe change the axis title to say something like, so I'm going to do granted more if I could spell. So this kind of just allows me to, you know, kind of help the user see which one, you know, what direction it goes. Now the problem is I would want 0 in the middle here, so I would need to make sure I scale this. So, but I can come back to that later. But we can also maybe highlight the min and the max, for example. So let's turn those mark labels on, and there we have the difference. Maybe put these both on the detail shelf so we can see it in the tooltip. Okay, so that's I think that's okay. That's not too bad. So this is their difference. Okay, let's also maybe look at it. I think we did this last week. We looked at it kind of as a Comet chart. So I'm going to put both of these on the view again. Oops. Let's see, put them both on the view again. And we're going to, let's see, so I want to show the difference between the two of them. So I want to connect them by that. No, I want to, yeah, I want to connect them by measured names. But I want them to go up and down, so I need to change this to discrete. Okay, there we go. And then if I make this a line, put that on path. There we go. So this shows us kind of the variance between them, which in itself looks kind of neat. I could put that on color, and we get something like that. Yeah, so that's another way to look at this, actually. Let's. But then if I also put the if I put realized versus granted on size, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to put measured names on size. And there we go. So we can see kind of which direction they're going. So this would be our Comet chart. Okay. Oh, Eva's watching. She's sitting right behind me too. Maybe she could wave to everybody. Is she going to wave? Eva, you going to wave? Okay, she says hello. She's sitting right back there. Okay, so this is another way to kind of show the variance, but this gives me an idea then. If I duplicate the sheet, let's see, so what I want to do here is let's change this to a Gantt bar, and we can see we have, so this is realized and granted. So if I put this on size, no, wait, let's see, what I want to do then, no, I want to have, let's put, so realized versus granted. I think I want to have granted here. I want to have realized on the detail for the tooltip. I'm going to put that on size. So what does this look like then? So this goes from, this might be backwards. So we've got, let's see, I think I'm going to need to duplicate this. So let me put this here. And then let me make this a dual axis. I'm just trying to make sure that I've got this correct. So Okay, so in the first one here, so realized is higher than granted, so the bar goes up. In this one, okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. And then if I put the realized versus compensated on color, we get a slightly different view. So it's doing the same thing kind of as this difference chart. It's just not comparing it to 0. It's just kind of showing the range between the two. So this would be our Gantt chart. So far, I think this is probably the one I like the best. Let's see, I'm kind of struggling with ideas here. All right, I'm going to chart choosers. I forget which one of these. So these are a couple of views that might help me see something, maybe give me a bit of inspiration for something that's different. So we've got a heat map, but that won't work. We've done the bar chart. We could maybe do kind of like a progress bar. If we're going to do that, what I would do is let's put year on, let's make this discrete. Let's put maybe granted compensation there, realized on detail. And I'm going to put a reference line for each cell. That's going to be the realized compensation. Make it black. And we can see then the difference between the two. So let me edit that again. Let's make this turn off to recalculate. Okay. And then if I put that difference field onto color, we can now see the difference of one versus the other. Yeah, nothing spectacular there. So this would be kind of like, let's see, so bar chart with reference line. I'll post links to some of these sites that I use as well in the notes. You could do a radial graph, but I think that'd be probably pretty hard to understand. I don't think that would be the most useful view to create. So a hanging rootogram. That kind of looks like what we just did. Maybe that's, let's see what this looks like. Oh, okay, that's a distribution. Okay. Grouped bars, Gantt bar, parallel coordinates we don't want to do. Oh, what happened here? Function, here we go. Trend over time. Bubble chart. We could try comparing one to the other with the, let's see, let's do granted versus realized. Let's put year on detail. Year on detail, and we get something like that. And then if I change this to a line and put year onto path, this is what's called a connected scatter plot. Now these can be useful when you're kind of looking at the distribution, or sorry, you want to see if there's any kind of pattern where it just continues to go up over time or something like that. So what I would do probably here is put the year on the ends of the lines, something like that. But you can see there's a spike here. Yeah, so this, anyway, this is kind of hard to see, so I don't think that's very useful. Oh, what happened to my, oh, it gave me everything. Hang on a second, what's going on here? Lollipop, spark line. So slope chart, I don't think that would be very useful here. I mean, we could try it. So a slope graph in this case, what I would do is I would put, I would compare the two of them like this, make it a line, and then put year onto detail. And now we can see the difference between them. And if I put realized versus granted on color, Okay. So this is granted compensation, this is realized compensation. Again, not very useful. So slope graph. Okay, let's keep going here, see what else we can find. Win-loss sparkline. So that's kind of what we've done with this one. Where is it here? Let me go back. So it's sort of like this, but the only thing we might do different here is instead of, I'll call it realized higher. You might do something like that and put that on color. So maybe we assign a couple of color palettes. Maybe the false is blue and the true is red, or whatever colors you want to use. So that would be like a a win-loss would just mean like a yes or a no. So to do kind of a yes or a no, what I would do is I would create another calculated field. So let's call this win-loss. And I'm just going to use the sign function of the realized versus granted. That's just going to convert it to a 1 or a 0. And if we put that on there, you'll see I just get 1s or 0s here. So yeah, so let's get rid of the labels there. So this would be kind of a win-loss chart. So in this case, I'd want to set the scale probably to go from, like, I don't know, let me make this decimal. Yeah, there we go. So what you would do then is you would just make this really small. Yeah, something like that would be like a win-loss chart. Or you could even maybe make them squares if you want. Something like that. So that'd be the idea behind a win-loss chart. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Stepped lines. Let's just see what that would look like. So let's take our line chart and duplicate. And to make step lines, we're just going to click on the path shelf and change it to steps. And, I think it's actually a bit easier to read than this one, but still not great. Let me see. Okay. Scaled time chart. I don't know what that is. A bubble timeline. Okay. So a bubble timeline, what we would do there is we would put year onto rows, and then on, year onto columns, and then on the rows, we're just going to have the average of 0, just so we get a line there. I'm going to change the mark type to a circle, and I'll put realized compensation on size, for example, and we get something like that. And then I can duplicate this field, and on the second one, maybe I put the granted on the size. And then maybe we make them a, let's see, can I do it? I wonder if I can make this a dual, let's put granted and realized. What I'm going to do is on this one, I'm going to put measure values onto size. So the idea here is to put one inside of the other, but I don't think this is going to work. Yeah, because they sometimes the one is in the back and sometimes the other is in the back. So I wonder if I can somehow come up with a calculation that lets me sort them. Because I think I can only sort that by, yeah, I can only sort that descending. So yeah, so I don't actually need that on there. Yeah, what I kind of want to do is I want to be able to show like one inside of the other. So the smaller one is always in the front, but I can't think of how I would do that. let me see. So let's call this one front. Let's say if realized is greater than granted, then granted, else realized. And then let's duplicate that. And let's call this one the back. Just switch the sign around. And let's put that on here. I'm going to just put the opacity back. So the front and the back. Okay, well, that didn't work. Okay. Well, that just tells you it's not very useful. So this would be our circle timeline. I'm not sure if that makes sense what I was trying to do, but I was trying to put one in front of the other so that the smaller one is always in the front, but I can't quite figure out how to do that. So sorry. Maybe if I change the sizes a bit. Let's do it by a range. All right, well, that didn't work. Okay, so Heatmap won't work. I mean, you could do a heat map, but it's not going to be very useful. We would just have maybe year as discrete, and we would put that on color, and you would get something like that. But that's nothing particularly interesting. And I would put maybe realized on there as well, and there you get the two of them next to each other. But again, not that great. Maybe instead of having measure names there, let's get rid of that. Let's put the realized versus granted on color. Yeah, but again, still not very useful. So this is our heat map. Let's see. So the other one that I think we saw was, what was it here? So a bump chart won't be useful. So sparkline, that's not going to be very useful. Column. Okay, so let's look at everything now. Let's see. Let's look at all. Okay. You could do a radial histogram, but that's a lot of work. Okay, sorted stream graph. Like this radial line graph. This is kind of like a radar chart. Yeah, so if you wanted to kind of do this as a radar chart, let me find the, I think I have, so let me go to my, okay, so I'm going to, let's see if we can do this. I'm going to, this refers back to a blog post by Ellen Blackburn. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a, let's just see what it looks like. So let's call this our radar. We'll see if we can do it with both of them at the same time. I'm probably going to fail epically at this, but we'll give it a go. So I'm going to copy these calculations. Okay. So this would be, so this is going to be my year field. That's what we want going around the edge. Okay, so running some 2 pi. Yep. Okay, so let's bring that over here. Okay, and then the, oops, undo. Is that right? Bring the whole thing over. Okay, yep, there we go. So we get rid of that. And then the distance from center, I'm going to, yeah, so this is just going to be the average of our granted. Let's just try it with one of them for now. Where did that go? Didn't save it. What the heck? That's annoying. It's not letting me do that. This is like stupidly annoying. Ah, okay, because it's just giving me the average. Okay, so why don't we just do this? Let's just take that. Put that here. Okay. Oh, it doesn't want us to do that. No idea if this is going to work or not. All right, and then to build the view, we want X on the columns and Y on the rows. We want angle on detail. Change the mark type into a line. Let's put angle on line. Okay. We're going to change the mark type to a polygon. Okay, so the value, so we need to put year on detail. All right, I messed it up again. Let's see. I messed it up again. X on column, Y on rows, stat on the angle. Oh, stat and angle. Okay. Okay, so this should be so this year needs to be on here somewhere. Okay, and then angle goes on path. I don't know if this is right or not. Yeah, I think it's right now, but it looks terrible. So we're going to delete that. So let's delete. That was a useless exercise. So this is when I delete all the fields that I used. And when you delete them and nobody sees them, that means nobody ever knows that you did it. So let's see. So realize when. Okay, yep, there we go. What else can we do? I think that might be it. All right, so let's see. So which one of these do I like the best? Probably the Comet Chart looks pretty cool, but I'm not quite sure how useful it is. Maybe I think probably the Difference Chart. I think I like the Difference Chart with it. Yeah, I like the Difference Chart, but with the not the I don't know, maybe the solid colors. Let's see what this looks like. I'm going to use a range. So let's see. What colors do I want to use? Let's just try the Makeover Monday. Yeah, that doesn't look very good. Yeah, that's not as good. So, oops. So this is our WinLoss chart. Okay. Right, so I think I'm going to go with this one for now, but I need to make sure that they both are on the same scale. Now, normally I would do this with a calculation, but this isn't data that's going to be updated at all, so I'm going to just fix the ranges to go from like minus 180 to 180. And now you can see that these are spaced nice and neat. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this, and I'm going to create a new calculated field. This would be our y-axis label. And then let's see, so here I'm going to insert from my ASCII keyboard. I want to insert, I should be able to find an arrow somewhere. There we go. Got an arrow. Oh, that's really small. Okay, well, let's see how it looks. And then here I want to put in my right arrow. Okay, so let me edit this axis. So I'm going to get rid of the axis here, get rid of the axis title here. The reason I'm doing this is because I have more control over what this looks like. So I'm going to rotate that label, hide the field labels for the rows, and now I can format this and maybe make it like, you know, maybe 12 point or something, maybe darker, bold, maybe something like that. Okay, so I'm going to format the workbook actually and change the default font to, oh, what do we want to use today? Most of these don't render in Tableau public. What does Railway look like? Yeah, I think I'll go with that. I think that looks pretty good. So let me format this again, maybe get rid of the bold. Okay. So there we go. So now we have that. I'm going to format again and get rid of my row dividers and get rid of my column dividers. Maybe I'll make my zero line a bit more prominent. Maybe make it a bit darker like that. But see, now the problem is I don't know if you can see it on the screen or not. You probably can't. Let me see if I can. I'm not sure if this will work for you or not. Where's this tool that I have here for magnifying? Loop. Yeah. So if you look here, you can see, sorry, I know it might be a bit hard to see. Let me just move this out of the way. So if you look at, you see here where the zero line isn't kind of in front of the bars. I don't know if you can you actually see that on the, so I brought up like a zoomed in screen. I don't know if you can see that. I'm curious to see if it works. Let's see. Okay, so anyway, I don't like how the zero goes behind the bars. So to get around that, I'm going to actually set them all to none. And I'm going to set my column grid lines to none. And then what I'll do is I'm going to actually put on a reference line, a constant reference line, add to 0. Let's edit that. I'm going to turn off the label, turn off the tooltip, and I'm going to just set it to a dark, or maybe a medium dark line, maybe make it thin. So now that's on top of the, so again, if I show loop here, come on. Oh, what happened here? No, I don't know what happened. Anyway, so now I can see the 0 line in front, which I like a bit better. I'm going to set my mark label to match the color. Maybe make them bold and bigger. Okay, so now I need to fix my range because that number is cut off. So let's go from minus 190 to 190. All right, and now maybe we want to count the number of years that that each one was higher. So in other words, the granted compensation was only higher in 9 years. So we could do that with a calculation. So let's just call this, no, doesn't, so I'm going to rename the sheet as realized versus granted. So what I want to do now is I want to, for each year, basically what I want to do is I want to count whether or not it's above or below. So if I put realized higher, for example, on text, I could see trues and falses going across. So I want to count the number of trues. So let's see, years, let's call this years. Geez, oh man. So what I want to do is I want to say for each year, I want to get the, I want to say if realized, no, I could just do this, realized higher, or turn that into an integer. Okay, so now I should end up with, how many do we have it where it's higher? So we have 45 years where it's higher. So let me take year off the view and put realized higher on text, and we should get 45. So what this calculation is doing here is it's saying, look at each year, and this realized higher is returning a true or a false. So if it's true, it's just going to turn it into an integer. That's it. So then I could duplicate that, and let's edit. Let's make this years granted higher. There we go. So I get 10 and 45, so there should be 55, yep, 55 years in the data set. All right, so we can now format both of these to be a number. Okay. So that's good, but how do I word this now? So I probably want the realized first. I could make this a percent of total then. So maybe I'll say percent realized higher. So I'd want to do years realized, years higher. Divided by, let's see, years granted plus years hired, years realized. There we go. Let's make this a default properties number format. Let's put this on here and see what happens. Oops. So 82% of the time it was higher. Okay, so default properties, number format, 0 decimals. Okay. So so we could get rid of that. Okay, so maybe I could say something like was larger than granted. This is way too many words, but let's see what it looks like. Okay. Okay, can you recommend a good tutorial for a radial histogram? A radial histogram. Yeah, just Google it. There's probably lots of them out there. Look on the Data School website. There's probably lots of them on there. Okay. Right. Okay, so I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is, okay, let's see. So if I now put okay, and then I'm going to edit the aliases. So it's really annoying how on a Mac sometimes we can't. I'm like double clicking like crazy on here, and it's not letting me change the names. So There we go, finally. Okay. Okay, and then maybe we could put another number in here that is the, let's see, so if we did like the average, okay, let me try something else here then. So, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the average. I was thinking, does it make sense to look at the average amount that it's higher, but that probably doesn't really matter. And then these numbers, so this is going to be, let's see, so number, there we go. Okay. All right, so let's say over the last, this compensation, compensation. Okay. So maybe I'll just do something simple like that. Okay, and then I need to format that. Get rid of the negative. I'm getting rid of the negative because I just want these to show up as positive numbers when you, on both the scale. You see my scale goes from positive going up and positive going down, just to make it a bit more clear. Okay, let me scroll through your. Okay, so. All right, so then the last thing would be to, let's put on our captions. And I think we're gonna need to maybe add a couple of notes on here. This is probably the best. Okay, I'm just going to copy this for now, but I'm going to just going to paste it in here. And then I'm going to wordsmith this a bit. So, include salary bonus long-term incentive. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do, I'll leave that there for now when I put this in the dashboard. So let's create a new dashboard. I'm going to delete that layout. Actually, maybe I'll leave it and I'll show you how I would do the phone layout here. So I'm just going to maybe make it 800 by 600, something simple. I'm going to bring in a vertical container. Set this to 0, 0, oops. Okay. I know this looks a bit of a mess, but that's okay. And then I'm going to, for now, I'm going to show this caption. I'm going to get rid of this in a minute. Okay, so I'm just going to copy that and then hide it. And down the bottom, I'm going to put another container. That's going to hold 2 text boxes. So this is the first one. And then the second one is going to be my hoop. So the source is the Economic Policy Institute. And created by Okay, and then what I'll do here is I'm going to add in, actually on this container, I'm going to add in about maybe 10 at the top to give it a bit of room there. Okay, so this is 8. This looks like a bigger font for some reason. Or maybe it's just because it's capitalized. So now we can see that these bars are a bit of a mess. So I'm just going to make the whole dashboard a bit wider. Make it, there we go. I really don't want it that wide. So what I have to do now is I'm going to go back. I wonder if I just change this to no, I don't want it to be discrete. I'm just going to change the bar size. So this is where we just have to keep playing with it to get it right. Let me just make them ever so slightly smaller. Nope. Okay, maybe something like that. And then maybe this needs to just be a smaller font. I think I'm going to switch this around. Where's my Aliases label? Okay, there we go, something like that. Maybe this could be smaller. All right, this maybe one more bit of formatting on my row grid lines. I'm going to maybe make them a bit lighter. So they're there, but kind of hard to see. And then I think but I'm not sure this is clear what this is doing, because this is showing the difference between realized compensation . All right, I think that does it. Okay. Why do the numbers look like subscript in the header? Yeah, that's just, I think, Forrest, you mean the 45 and the 55. That's just the font. Maybe I should use, yeah, I see what you mean. The 45 and 55 look like subscript. I used the, format workbook. I used this font called Railway. Maybe I should use a different one because I see what you mean there, Roboto. That's pretty boring. Rubik I like. Yeah, there you go. So that's a bit better, except everything looks bold now, which is a bit of a problem. Let me see. If I go back to the top, I also like Avenir. I know it's a kind of a boring font, but it works well. Oops. Jeez, oh man. Screen's going a bit crazy here. So Avenir. Yeah, maybe Avenir is actually a better font to use this time. But now I need to go back here because my labels are too big. So let me make these 10 point. Try that. There we go. I'm going to extend these out just a bit. Oops. So there we go. Is that better? Forrest, that should be better now. Okay, so I think that's it. Nothing particularly, all that interesting, but that's okay. I'm actually going to give this one. Oh, I meant to also tell you how I would go about. No, that's the wrong way. I didn't want to do that. I'll do inner padding on the right. There we go. And I don't like how these fonts look like a different size, so I'm going to redo this. Yeah, now the fonts look better. And then maybe format this. Let's make it a slightly lighter shade. Does that look like? We could probably even make it lighter than that. Okay. And I think those number fonts are still a bit too big. They don't need to be that big, so let me change them to 9. And do they need to be bold? Let's see what they look like when they're not bold. Yeah, I do think they need to be bold. Oh, did I fix my tooltips? I did. This is really annoying how when you hover over something, oh, it's not doing it now, but before it would show the highlighter. Or sorry, it would show the tooltip. Okay. So I think, so let's see, so alignment, I'm going to put that at the bottom. Maybe if I put it, what does it look like if I put it at the top? Yeah, I think that's a bit better. And then on this container, I think I need more at the top. Okay, there we go. So now to make this a mobile dashboard, I would just click on this phone layout, and Tableau tries to sort of build it for you automatically, but I'm going to hit this little unlock thing here. And I'm going to choose device preview, and I'm going to switch the layout to landscape and untick Tableau mobile app because I don't really need that. And then I'm going to choose fit all. And you see we've got a bit of a mess now, so it kind of messed up our containers, and we have basically, it created this whole tiled container and all this. So I'm going to kill that tiled container, and then I'm going to put a horizontal in here. I put my 2 text boxes in there. Maybe. Let's edit the height. Let's maybe make it. Okay. So that's, so that gives us that. The problem now is it doesn't look very good, so you can't edit the title. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go back over here, and I'm going to copy my title, and in my mobile layout I'm going to hide the title, and then I'm going to bring in a text object above that to make it act like a title, and I'm just going to make the font smaller. So if I make this maybe I don't know, maybe 12, let's make this one 8. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, but this needs to be unpinned. Okay, now, yeah, so we've got a bit of an issue here with the chart because it doesn't have enough room. So maybe what I would do in this case is, we could even put like an information button up here or something, because now this, like if I format this and I make this a nice small font now to get it to fit a bit better, I believe if I go back to my dashboard, it changed it to 8 point here as well. So let's see if I format that. You see it switched it to 8. Now maybe I just leave it like that. It's, probably doesn't really matter either way. I think the biggest issue here is we have this container here, which takes up a lot of space. So we could maybe put in a, oh gosh, how do I do this? Let's see. So I think if we go layout, let's pick this vertical container, and I'm going to, maybe what I'll do is I will float in another container. I'm going to float it in here, and inside of this I'm going to have my 2 text boxes. So this is my notes, and now I need to go get them. Okay, so now that I have those inside of this container, I can go ahead and add a show hide button. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this up here to the upper right, and I'll move this box. Oops, didn't want to do that. So I'm going to move this with it, so it kind of shows up. And then this container, or this, let's see, let's set the background to white, and we'll put a border on it, like a border like that, yeah, something like that. And then let's set maybe, I don't know, 4 pixels, maybe 10 pixels of inner padding. Okay, and then this needs to also be taller now, because it needs to fit all of the text. Let's maybe make the border medium gray. Okay, so now what I can do is, if I show this, I can, come on. Well, that didn't work very well. Come on. So dashboard item show hide would be vertical image button. I want to choose, yeah, that's fine. Let's see, do I have a information icon somewhere? I probably do. If I go into my Tableau repository and then shapes, I probably have one about buttons. Nope. Probably icons. Acorn. Maybe an information icon. Okay, so this is one from PowerPoint. So background, let's make it white. Okay, there we go. So now if I show that, and if I click on it, it'll hide. Oh, I'm now hiding the wrong thing. Okay, so is that not in a container anymore? Ah, okay, I need to put that in. I need to bring that container. I lost my container, so I need to float in this container and put this box inside of that container. And then let's, oh, come on. Okay, then I need to set this up to show the other container. Come on. So I'm using the wrong container. Right. So now they click on that, it'll hide it. Oh, these probably have this backwards. I've got my buttons backwards. So let's edit this again. And so I've got my icons wrong. When the item is hidden, I want to use the information icon. That's what I want to do. Actually, I could probably just use it in both cases. Info icon. Okay, so that should work now. Okay, there we go. So that just hides that nice and neat. So now we've got we're using our space a bit better. Okay, so so I see there's a question here. Is there a way to make sure your stream values look like a lollipop? You probably could. So if I duplicate this sheet, and I'm going to call it min or max. Window max realized or window min realized, then realized versus granted. Okay. Let's see, edit. Oh. So what I would do here is I would just make this a secondary axis. You see I can only see one value now. Or those two values, make them circles. Probably, I'm going to turn the labels off to make it look a bit better. Maybe increase the size. And then just make it a dual axis and synchronize. And then I would get rid of the measure names from the all marks card. Yeah, so there you go. So you could do it like that. If I were going to do that, I would probably get rid of the labels in both places. So something like that. So that'd be how you would do that. Actually, like that. So I'm going to steal that idea. So thank you very much for that. I hope that's okay, Con. I really like that idea. Min or max. So mark type is a circle. Let's make it a dual axis and synchronize. And then the circle needs to be bigger. Thank you for that idea. That's a really, really good idea. And then on my bars, I want to get rid of the labels. And then with my circles, I'm going to, let's see. So I think that's okay. So let's format. So marked and realized. Number format. Custom 1 decimal. Get rid of the negative. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to hide the null indicator and hide that header. So let's see. The only thing I don't like is how these are a bit like fuzzy looking. So I'm actually going to change the mark type to a pi because it'll make them actually look like not so fuzzy anymore. And I'm going to go to the dashboard, and now I'm going to have to like manually drag my marks above or below the circles, but that's probably okay. And now I don't have enough room here, so I need to change my scale again. Let me go back to this sheet. Show header. Get rid of that. And I need to, oops. So let's make this, okay, there we go. So maybe I have a bit more room to move it above. Yeah, that's good enough. We could even make them look like arrows. You could, yeah, you can make them triangles instead if you want. Yeah, good idea. Okay, so there's only 2 extreme values. Perhaps we could try a circle in a sheet or load a circle picture, then replace them on top of the extreme numbers. Okay. Yeah, so let's see what that looks like now as the phone layout. And yeah, I think that's okay. That'll work. So yeah, if any questions, feel free to leave a comment. If you're enjoying these videos, please let others know. I enjoy doing them every week, and I hope you get a lot out of them. If you're learning something, tell some other people, and maybe they'll be able to learn something as well. So that's it for this week. All right, everybody, have a great week. Bye.